Welcome to this panel called Children Cultural Talk. My name is Björgvin Franz, and I will be your moderator for today. We will be discussing various aspects of how we can better connect with youth through various media platforms and what the main obstacles are achieving that goal and what we can do to overcome those obstacles, both creatively, technically, and logistically. Now, just FYI, RIFF floated canceled last minute because of health reasons, so we just sent her our best and supportive thoughts, but we have the rest of our great panelists still here with us today. Now I'm going to start in order that they will sit beside me. So we're going to start with Helga Arnardóttir, who has worked as an investigative journalist, daily news editor, and news anchor for the Icelandic National Broadcasting Service, as well as Channel 2. She has MA degree in international journalism from City University of London, and her screenplay Birta, released and sold worldwide in 2021, has won numerous awards. Helga is currently working on a thriller called Disturbed, based on the same novel, as well as developing mystery crime series based on her experience as an investigative crime reporter on missing people. So yeah, we have heavy hitters here today. Helga, why don't you come here and sit beside me? I'll give her a big round of applause. Now, next one is Julia Granath from Malmö, Sweden. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Media and Communication from University of Malmö. She has been working at BUFF since 2007 and took the position as Festival Director in December 2012. As some of you may know, BUFF is a film festival in Malmö where the main objective is to familiarize children with the world of cinema and about the influence of film in society, helping them to learn more about other cultures and see things in broader perspective. Julia believes that film experiences can help young people to understand life in an easier way and to make the world broader. Please, could you welcome Julia?
What do you want?
Yeah, so here, right? Yes, there we go. Now, last but not least, Agnes, who completed her BA studies in acting in 2013, has worked as a director, actress, scriptwriter, and producer with a focus on children's culture. Agnes currently works as a team leader in children and youth services at the Icelandic National Broadcasting Service and is one of the founders of the Midnight Theatre Group, specializing in children's theatre and culturally relevant content for children. Agnes was nominated for the 2021 Greenman Awards as Director of the Year. Please welcome Agnes Wild. Now, my name is Björgvin Franz, and I'm a former child star, so I was just going to move on. No, I've been working in children's theater here in Iceland since 2002, along with writing, directing, and starring in one of the longest-running children's TV programs at the Icelandic National Broadcasting Service, where me and my team won the Edda Awards for the best children's TV program in 2011. See, I saved the best for the last and made myself most important person here. Not that I'm narcissistic. Okay, so Julia, I want to start with you. First of all, thank you for coming and making the time for coming all the way from Sweden. I know you're very busy right now. It's festival season, right? All over. So could you maybe start telling us a little bit about yourself, your work, and the scene in Sweden when it comes to children's TV, cinema, and so forth?
Okay, well, thank you for having me. It's been great. I love your country and this beautiful city. This house is amazing as well. I was actually doubling for Rikke, who was not here in the panel, this morning with a think tank with young filmmakers from all over the Nordic countries. That was really interesting. I think we're good in terms of talent. It will be good content for the next generation as well. And we were touching some of the questions that we are going to raise here as well with the audiences and stuff. Well, I work for a film festival called BUFF. It's short for Children and Youth Film Festival. in Swedish, and we screen around 130 films every year from all over the world. And the main audience at the festival is children and youth that are sort of forced into the cinema and forced to watch these films, because it's something called school cinema, as we have in Sweden. I think some of the other Nordic countries around as well. And that's a good way of actually throwing a young audience into getting stories that they wouldn't choose from themselves. I mean, when the festival started in 1984, then it was the same kind of question, broaden the content for a young audience, but then it was mainly like one TV channel and things on the cinema. Now it's, as we all know, so much content. And so that's what we do mainly. And the festival is in March every year. What else should I say? We're also distributors, so we also buy some films every year to distribute, mostly as a school cinema, because, and we will talk about it, it's hard to market and distribute films for a young audience that are not very broad, accessible and stuff. So school cinema is a really good way of like starting an interest for the film or the art of film, I think. And also to make the cinema rooms accessible for all children and youth, because I mean, it's expensive. I heard that it's super expensive in Iceland as well to go to the cinema, and not all families can afford it, and or do even have the choice to do it. So, yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Now, I was thinking we should just dive in the questions. We have a lot, and we want to think of it more as a discussion rather than a very cold panel. So, but Agnes, I want to direct maybe the first official question to you. As a team leader in Children and Youth Services at the Icelandic National Broadcasting Service, or RIFF, like we call it here, what is your priority in making content for children? And what are some of the obstacles you're facing today?
Okay, good question.
Thank you.
The priorities that we are mainly working on now is that we try to make content that is educational and fun for the stuff that we are making within our within RIFF, basically. But also making stuff that's appealing to children and for them to want to watch it. For me, it's also very important for them to watch Icelandic on TV, because there are so many platforms where you can watch English stuff, and a lot of children in Iceland are starting to order their sentences in Icelandic in the way that you order them in English. So they are sort of changing the language slowly, which is okay. The language is allowed to change, but it's also very important for them to watch. And for the first stuff that they watch, especially when they are very young, is Icelandic and is getting the hang of their own mother language before they start to then watch something else. So that's sort of when I started at RIFF 3 years ago, that was my main focus, to start with the youngest kids. But that also means that it leads me to the obstacle, is that kids love to watch cartoons as well. They like to watch like live TV, but they also want to watch cartoons. And we want them to be in Icelandic for them to learn the language and hear all the vocabulary. But the biggest issue is that how expensive it is to dub cartoons. And just dubbing a season of Paw Patrol, for example, is 3 times the amount that it costs to just buy the series. So the series costs an X amount, and then I have to double it, triple it. And that's the price of just dubbing that series, and that's 24 episodes of 22 minutes. It's a lot of content, it's a long time. So it's a lot of stuff created, but I think that's a big obstacle. And so I had Ásmundur Einar come to talk to me, who was the Minister of Children and Schools and Children, I think. So they're always changing, the ministers. He has something to do with children. And he asked me, what is it that if you could have anything in the world, what would you want to have here at RIFF? And I was like, I actually would want to have more money, of course, just for dubbing. Because that's also very important. Even though we like making stuff, we're filmmakers, we like making dramas and comedies and fun stuff for kids, but it's also very important because that is the core, and that's how we lure them in, for example, to Kids Roof, to watch to come to our platform.
And withhold the language.
Yes, so that's sort of the focus. And with the teenagers, with older kids, the focus is to do online platform first, and then linear TV, because they don't watch linear TV anymore. We'd rather want to launch something onto our online platform before it goes on TV. For example, we did a series 2 years ago called White Lies, which was a trial, like an experiment. And we published it first on our platform online on Ungroof, and it had 70,000 views just in 1 week. And then it went on TV in June, and it had like 6% viewing or something, because they're not watching it there. They watched it online. Okay. They'd watched it. Oh, it was done watching it, and then it goes on TV, and the older people watch it.
Right. Yeah. Helga, what would you say would be the main obstacles we're having when it comes to creating content for children, youth?
Money.
Okay, well, we thank you for today.
Yes.
Talk to the minister.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to emphasize that, I'm sitting with my soon-to-be 5-year-old boy, and we are watching Paw Patrol, the same series for 1 year. And we are watching...
Dubbed in Icelandic.
Dubbed in Icelandic.
Right.
And I was I've seen this before, haven't I? When is it bought? It's produced 2017. So there is no renewal, running from that series. And then Umizoomi, we don't have...
It's not even in the right frame.
It's like 5 episodes, and he's been watching that for months. So this is something serious that the government needs to just address completely, because it's not, on one institution to withhold,
Right.
But being an independent producer, we produced our film Birta in 21. In 20, in the middle of COVID, and it was only half funded. We didn't get full funding, So that went really well, and my husband directed it. And then 2018, that was the last time a children's film was made, and he was the director of that as well, even though he didn't produce it. Then the year after 20, we had another film called Up Up Up. All of the 3 films hit the charts completely in the cinema, apart from us, because we had this mandatory rapid tests over our premiere weekend, so we kind of lost our audiences, But as soon as it hit Sjónvarp Símas, who was a co-producer and really funded this project with us, we just completely hit the charts.
So you mean on the on-demand platform? Right. Yeah.
So since 21, there hasn't been funded from the IFC, Icelandic Film Center. There hasn't been a funded film for children and family.
What do you think that is? Maybe you know why. Why is it?
I mean, we are now we are in heavy recession. Economic recession. We all know that. Like yesterday and the day before, heavyweight directors were calling for more financing for the Icelandic Film Center, So if that is a problem, put the children's content on steroids, It's worse. So that is absolutely the problem. However, I don't know why Icelandic Film Center hasn't made kind of a mandatory habit, might be rule, I don't know, of funding one children's film a year, dramatized, because that is ultimately that content that reaches our children, And they are doing it with, we mustn't forget Tulipop and Lói, which is a cartoon, Icelandic cartoon. I'm really happy about that. But still, it's not dramatized, and it's for a younger audience.
Right.
So I asked an employee at the IFC, why isn't there, aren't there any scripts coming in for children's movies? Oh yes, they're just not good enough. Right. So how many films are made that are not good enough? Just if one film could be just made for children a year, we would be in so much better position.
Right.
Regarding television, we only have 3 television channels. One of them is kind of not interested in anything dramatized for children.
Right.
It's a private channel. RIFF and Sjónvarp Símans are mainly our go-to. Sjónvarp Símans has withdrawn on dramatized children's content, so it's only RIFF.
Okay.
And RIFF is having a really hard time now financially.
Right.
And if they're not managing to dub kind of Paw Patrol, we can imagine what's the situation with dramatized content for young audience.
Right. Now, Julie, I want to ask you, what are some of the key characteristics of content that resonates most with young audience today? And actually, the rest of the question is through social media and how do these differ from traditional government-funded films and TV shows? But I'm just interested in what do you think, what do you believe, what's your experience, what resonates? Because before we were talking about numbers, kind of following what interest, because that's something that you're really looking at. And again, I'm going to throw in the obstacles. What are the upsides and what are the downsides of what you're dealing with in Sweden? And
well, Sweden is a much bigger country than Iceland, of course, but small in terms of the world.
Right.
And I didn't know that much about the Swedish television, the public broadcaster in Sweden. So I interviewed the head of the Children and Youth, Petter Brage, and he was bragging. I have a whole page of stuff that he talked about, and apparently the content for a young audience is going really well. Obviously, they also make Swedish versions out of Paw Patrol and Bluey. Have you seen Bluey? Yes, it's amazing. It's no point in trying to make something, because there's nothing as funny as Bluey. But they are both buying other stuff, but their in-house productions, they all are developed with the audience. Yeah. As you remember the Norwegian success Skam, for instance, it was also based, it was also taking place in different platforms, and I think they have continued it. And now he's saying, I don't know if it's true, that now Swedish television is the best in the Nordic countries. Yeah, I don't know, but they are really, they're saying that they are reaching the audience, and they can actually follow numbers almost in real time. And we don't have, I don't think anybody is watching the Tableau TV. It's all platform-based.
Right.
It's the SVT Play. But also for teenagers. And they can see what they are asking, the audience, what do you want? What should this be about? And then they create something. It's usually actually pretty cheap productions, I have to say, and not always really high quality. Maybe it's fast. It's but it's what the kids want.
Yeah, they watch it,
right.
And it's very eye level. They watch it. Yes.
Exactly.
And they listen to them, and then they can actually follow what is interesting in one episode and go and zoom in to oh, here's a big interest. They're going back to the scene. What's happening in this scene? And there's one teenage series called Just Sex, Bara Sex. And it's about it's very sex positive. And it's, I mean, no explicit, of course, it's like children drama. But you can still follow, like, here's an interest. Here they're watching, like, back and forth. And it's in the love scenes. So the scriptwriter and director is the same person. She could actually use that in the next season to build the episodes. So it's actually creating that interest throughout the episodes. So it's really like trying to cooperate with the needs of the audience, or needs, but what they are interested in.
Right.
And I think it's really, because sometimes I watch like maybe 200 feature films for a young audience every year. And there are so many films that are from a director, maybe my age, pushing 50, that are like a nostalgic take on a childhood or something. But kids are not that interested in that. They're actually interested in what happens in schools. And I think they would be interested in what happens in Icelandic schools.
Yeah,
and like,
they are.
So it's like what they're actually taking from reality or whatever. But it's like dramatized.
I think that SVT, because I watched we've got this series, Parasex. We've got it coming next year to Iceland as part of Sex Education Week. So we are in very good contact with SVT, NRK, and Yle, and everyone. But what I think is what they have ahead of us is that they are willing to make a cheaper product.
Yeah.
And they dare to do it because they know the story and they focus on the story, and they don't really mind. It doesn't have to be a gazillion-dollar movie.
Okay.
It can be very trimmed. It can be very short.
Right.
It doesn't have to be 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be 40 minutes. It can be just a 12-minute episode, 6 12-minute episodes, and the kids just watch it in one go.
Wow.
And that is something that I think that we in Iceland need to also think about, because we are always thinking the biggest, the best, and the most expensive films, and we have to do it so cinematic and cool. And I was like, no, we don't have to do that. Of course, we want to do it sometimes,
Sure.
but we can also just make, because they are all filmmakers. The teenagers, they're all making films all the time, and they're editing it so quickly, and they're doing it on their phones, and they don't need to have it as cinematic and perfect as we think that we would want, because we're the artists.
Because sometimes they're watching on their phone, like, you know, you're on the bus and you're watching an episode and going back and forth in that love scene, maybe. I don't know. But so it doesn't need to be like, oh, cinematic and I mean, it's dialogue, it's like...
It's a story.
Yeah, it's a story, exactly. And the characters are interested and you can mirror yourself. And I was thinking that it's really tough that Icelandic children growing up not being able to mirror themselves in films or TV nowadays. I think it's a bit problematic, actually.
Because the problem isn't that they're not watching. They watch, they consume everything.
They do,
that's made for them completely. You know, we need to be concerned about the platforms, of course. Like you were saying about the 70,000 part on the online, and then only, you know, like dropping a lot, you know, on the demand. But I think we need just like kind of a major boost in changing our perspective here. Because this is something that the governmental bodies need to address completely. Right. And it will be, I don't know if you have the numbers, but what are the budgets, the percentage they are putting in children's material at SVT compared to the Icelandic?
Oh, you mean the budget?
No, you wouldn't have those numbers, because that would be interesting.
So.
They must be double, you know.
Yeah,
we have something on paper.
I don't know. I need my glasses.
Because, you know, it's the emphasis on making the content, the will to make content in Swedish, you know, for Swedish children.
Right.
Yeah, it's true, and I don't know exactly, but they do have a budget, and that is significant.
They do have a good budget.
Yeah, I mean, we also need to make Eurovision and stuff, and that's really expensive. So. But it's so funny, and also what he said, and I thought it was, and it's also what you were saying, like kids go back and watch old episodes of stuff, and they watch a lot of kids watch Pippi Longstocking, because it's a very still the TV show and films that were made like so long time ago, like 50 years ago or something, they're still being watched, and that's the only Astrid Lindgren, the author's production that SVT has. The other ones are bought by another company. So the most searched word on SVT Play, and it's like all over, adults content and everything, is Emil, which is another Astrid Lindgren characters. Because when you've watched Pippi, they want to watch Emil. But then they have to go somewhere else. So it's really, that's a proof also. And it's the same, it's Emil every year.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's also like telling us something that it's important that we have this content, even though it's like old.
Exactly.
But it's something that resonates with, and that's high
Björgvin has a
quality.
story about that.
Yeah, I mean, but before, I was thinking about it, but what is it in, Emil and Pippi that resonates still?
It's good.
I mean, is it because it's young, very independent children, possibly with ADHD, or?
It's iconic,
iconic
story.
Yeah, it is.
Iconic, yeah.
But it's also it's also for parents, because parents grew up watching it.
That's right.
And they want the children to watch it. So I introduce my son to Emil because I want him to watch it.
Right.
So and it's about generations connecting as well, I think.
No, I mean, I was we were just discussing it before, me and Helga, how I was so I was so proud because so my children's TV show, which I did years ago, children are still watching it. And I'm like, wow, I'm freaking good.
And that was leaked online, wasn't it?
Not to downplay what I did, but I'm one of the few Icelandic contents out there. That's why they're watching it over and over again. See, we need more. We need so much more, because I'm unfortunately out of the children's game. Mostly because there's not much to do, Unfortunately, I'm doing more for adults, but I love entertaining children. I love it, and I miss it a whole lot. So every time I see children, I like just start doing something because I'm desperate doing something for kids. But what is it that really? What do you like talking about stories? What does, from your experience, especially you making content, what do you think resonates for? I mean, I know it's a broad question, but with children, youth today, like what,
Real life stories.
Yeah.
When you say real life stories, what are we talking about?
Like stories from the classroom, stories about children's drama. I mean, stories about children's problems.
Right.
Like real life stories, divorced parents. I mean, we have it all, in all kinds of films. That's what they relate to.
And it's like real emotions.
Real emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
And
seeing their counterparts,
Right.
acting.
Right.
I mean, I do like of course, when you go to the younger, because I do quite a lot for the younger kids, we do characters. But the characters are inlaid, what's the word?
Sincere.
They're sincere, right.
They're pure, they're true. It's like clowns. They say what they feel. They speak like children, and their emotions are real, even though you're dressed as an elf. But your emotions, if you're true to your emotions, kids watch it, and they agree. As soon as it starts to be like pretend, they sort of...
Oh yeah, they see through it. Yeah, right.
And I think most parents choose the Icelandic version of content than the Netflix version. But if you watch the same Paw Patrol episode for a whole year, then you choose Netflix, Then you have the English kind of, and you're forced to do it.
Right. And yes, I mean, and I agree with what you were saying about how, our mother tongue may and should evolve. I mean, it will in some way, but what I noticed, because I used to do a lot of overdubbing, so all these cartoons and Lion King and stuff, we were, many Icelandic actors were asked to, we have to overdub this, but I haven't had, I'm called in maybe once every 2 months. I used to do it twice a week for 3 hours at a time, so 6 hours a week, because we were just getting it out there. And just with, even though I love that kids have access to other languages, learning different languages, of course, because the world is getting smaller, it's like, but we are really losing that.
Yeah.
Correct? Do
And
you agree with that or no?
And children, they don't have a spokesman, so we are responsible for their consumption. So I was wondering, when I saw this, like Paw Patrol, it was not on RIFF, it was on Sæmundsson. It's a private run. And I was thinking, it's 2017 now, the series. He's been watching the whole series for a whole year, and it's not been renewed, no new series. Really most popular children's content ever, I think. And then my first question was, whom should I call to make this complaint? Am I calling the head of Seaman, or who is in charge?
Right.
When a seasoned journalist needs to ask himself this question, how does just a regular parent, they just move on to Netflix. It's really basic.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly, yeah.
And it was a very big step, for example, when Lilja, our Minister of Culture,
Right.
When she sent an email or a letter to Disney to say, can you please put all the Icelandic dub into Disney Plus?
That's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's
a
huge step for us.
Definitely.
And now we can watch loads of Icelandic Disney films, like with Icelandic dubbing.
Right.
And actually, RIFF owns a lot of these dubbing. Loads, all of like DuckTales, Dr. McStuffin, all of these series we've dubbed. And Disney just needs to say, can we have them? And we can send it to them. And there's a little fee, there's like an exchange fee of them buying it, but they own it. It's just the transferring fee. But RIFF being understaffed, I have no one that can go over all the dubbing that we have and sending it just automatically to Disney. But it needs someone like Lilja, like the minister, to just be, hang on.
To address it.
Can we just have this because this is all there?
Right. Now, okay, so in what specific ways do you believe, if there is a disconnect between the content produced for children, for example, government-funded films and TV shows, opposed to the independent content makers on social media? Like you said, kids are filmmakers today, they're making content. Like, if there's a rift, what is it? And can we address that a little bit? Because kids, of course, we know all these content makers who do things that, well, we parents are not always, we don't condone, but they love it. And we think it's too, I mean, just speaking for myself, obviously I'm becoming middle-aged because this is too fast, this is too much, this is crude, this is everything. So, but I mean, in RIFF, there's certain, linear or a goal that you achieve to reach or, talk to youth. Like, where's the rift? And is there a disconnect?
Well, yeah.
I wouldn't say there is a disconnect, no, because children are as equally interested in every content that is made for them in Iceland.
Right.
There was a disconnect platform-wise, but I think all of the channels and RIFF has kind of taken care of that problem and is up to date, regarding that.
Right.
So I don't want to say that there is a disconnect. We just need to produce more.
Right.
We just need to produce so much more.
So you're just saying that the independent content makers, the only difference is that they are just making it by themselves, and the government-funded projects are making less. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm an independent filmmaker, and we have been. My husband is a director of children films, and we are now moving to the not the adult version, I was going to say, but to original just films, kind of not for children.
Yeah, right.
Because it's not
like crime thrillers and such.
We don't see any money for it, and it's lacking. There's no interest in the governmental bodies to kind of take care of that.
Right.
So we are moving from that section. you know,
Just
in order just to thrive in this industry.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I've been trying to do lately is I have a lot of young filmmakers who are still in college or just graduated from film school, who are very eager, and they're so like, you know, when you're that age, you're just full of energy, you can just do anything, you make films and it costs nothing. They come to me and pitch a project. And for example, this year or like next year, we will be airing a feature film, like a TV film, that is completely made by 18-year-olds. And it's a film club of Veslo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, the high school Veslo, yeah.
Yeah, it's a high school, it's 18, 19-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And they were so enthusiastic, they just came to me like, we've got this film, we're gonna make it in 2 weeks. We're gonna drive around Iceland. I was like, great, I'll give you a little bit of money that I have and make me that film. And they've just handed it back, and it's okay.
Yeah, right.
It's not amazing. And my bosses have watched it. They're like, it's not good. We can't put this on TV. I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Why
exactly.
can't we? It's because I was like, it's so pure. It's them. It's funny. It's like they've got like a song in it. It's like a Veslo video.
It's beautiful.
For 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And but they've made it and they've filmed it, and the sound guy was like, well, the sound's not good enough. And I was like, well, they are 18-year-olds making a film.
Yeah, with no money.
With no money. And but it's good. And I know as soon as I put it on our player, it will like...
It will scale, yeah,
it will be watched so much, and again and again and again and again, and it will go... We always try to then connect on TikTok, take clips out of the program, put on TikTok, get them in on our platforms.
We just need to be obviously more resourceful regarding, you know, the making of process for children's content, because we are in a heavy recession and we have an empty film fund. Yeah. We have an empty tax reduction fund. Yeah. Tax refund. Refund. Yeah. So, and all of the channels are really, you know, experiencing tough economic situations.
Sure.
So this is maybe the path we need to go.
Just to kind of combine resources.
Just to, like you said, like compact the technical. It doesn't need to be like anamorphic lens and you know what I mean. We just need to be resourceful.
Sure. Sorry, you go. Yeah.
No, but that could be something different between the TV that Swedish television do for young people, young adults, and teenagers, and filmmakers that get support from the Swedish Film Institute. Because a lot of the times, I think someone has made a film and they're done. They're really happy about their product. And then they haven't thought about who's going to be watching this. So the criticism of the Swedish film industry or whatever is that we made too many films this year. Way too many films.
For children?
No, maybe not children, but overall.
Okay. Overall, okay.
There are not enough audience for all the films that we made. So it was like all over the place. So now they're like trying to, we will make better films, like broader films, and we need to reach the audience because the Swedish audience choose not to watch Swedish films in the cinema, except for children films. It's very popular, and if you measure it, or if you watch just like what is on the 1 to 10 in the cinemas every week, it's like more than 50% are films for a young audience. It's I mean, it's Inside Out 2 and those kind of films as well that are in the top. But there are a lot of content for a young audience. But what is important with the Swedish popular films for a young audience is the strong IPs. like Pippi that we talked about, and Emil. So in terms of, we have like this bear called Bamse, he's really popular, and we have Petson and Findus, this old man with his cat, and those IPs. And we have this little ghost Laban, it's a new film coming out.
All based on published books.
Yes, they're all based on really strong IPs, old IPs, like, very popular. And they are, I mean, there's a market for them, and so I'm afraid that it's going to be less of this more maybe artistic films, like with the talent, like exploring and making original stories, than the films that we all know are going to reach an audience, because they're like, if there's a new film like that, it's like it markets itself pretty much, because we all know about it. And I think that's the disconnect, I think, maybe with the filmmakers and not being so good at, maybe, or not that the money that they are given from the public funds, even, I mean, it can be from the Swedish Film Institute or the regional film centers like Film Invest, they have more budget than the Swedish Film Institute, as you maybe know. I think that they should start to actually, what do you say, like, you will get this budget, you will get this money, but then you have to come with a 10-page marketing strategy.
Right.
You have to do it, and maybe you have to take someone from outside to actually, during filming or like during the making of the film, actually work on your audience, because it's so important that we actually, because it's usually really good and eye level and I mean what kids want to see, but if they don't know that there's a film about this topic, then no one,
in Iceland.
Then no one will see it. So I think it should be villkorat, like if you get the funding, then you have to do this as well.
But I have one question. Like, for example, if they buy content from 18-year-olds and that resonates with their age group, and it hits the charts in television, would a movie made by those standards, would it have a potential to enter a film festival, for example? Because I know you have high standards regarding quality and stuff. I mean, wouldn't that be kind of a...
We've screened...
I can just see it on your...
We've screened some bad films, actually. No, but it's like, it can be... I remember this, sitting in this selection group, discussing a film. It was from India. And it was so bad, but it still was so good, if you know what I mean. Like the production value was so low, and it was like almost embarrassing. But it was like a connection there. Yeah, it was such a strong story, and the characters were amazing, and it was like nothing that we've seen before. And we screened it, and it was like, oh my God. But it was like so well received by the audience.
Wow.
Well, okay.
But it was
no
like
criticism, kind of, no negative comments.
Wow.
No, and the director came from this very small area in India. It was only like 38 million people speaking his language. Because we had we translated a lot of films, and we had a bysitter from that area. We found it in him in Malmö, actually. But so yeah, it was really interesting.
Right.
Sometimes we do that, but then it has to be like a really very the topic and it has to have something at least.
But for us, it's mostly about the platform, because we are thinking about, so we have a platform called Ungru, which is Youth Roof, and
it's like an app and a player.
It's like a player on a laptop, like on a browser.
Right.
It's not on the TV. It's just on a browser.
Right.
And for me to have content that is that drags them in, made by their age group. And when they come in, they watch that, and then next to it, I will have a very good like something from BBC or SVT or something that we have bought in that we know that is very high quality and has been.
Okay.
So it's all for me. It's mainly about the catalogue. What am I? Because we're not making films. We are making a place for them to go.
Yeah.
Right.
For them to find something else.
Yeah.
Their platform.
So I want to buy something from an 18-year-old for them to come and watch and then find something else. And that's why I want to have Paw Patrol and pay loads of money for it and Bluey. Because then they will find something else.
Yeah, right. They start with that and then, here's...
Yeah, third season of Bluey is out, it's amazing, and there'll be a 40-minute long episode next year, it's great, we're waiting for it.
First fix is free.
Yeah, and then you say, hang on, this is Icelandic content that we've made, and then this and this, and so it's all about the catalogue for me.
No.
And here's what I'm wondering, we're talking about different, like, what innovative strategies can filmmakers do to connect with youth, and what kind of content should they be focusing on? I know we've talked about platform, we're talking about stories. I mean, what about racism, for example? Like, is it something that is prevalent amongst, Swedish, Icelandic youth? Like, what's going on? Because we can see some polarization, especially now, and it's on the rise in Iceland, unfortunately, and I've seen it in Germany too. I've been there, and so what's what if we, and not only that, of course it's very broad, but I think it's an important question. Like, we're talking about innovative strategies, what kind of content should we focus on? What can you do?
We just need to make stories about that. Simple as that.
Right. Okay.
And it needs to be funded.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No, a head of television at some channel, I'm not going to mention what channel.
Right.
Not RIFF. Said to me, it's really good that you just bring the script to us ready for shoot. Okay, I said, who's going to fund the writing? Well, that's your problem, obviously.
Okay.
So we need to just, the development budget from television channels are key factors in making good scripts, stories. The core of the content. So I think, and we need to tell all the stories. I think Sweden is really good.
I was wondering, Julia, what, like, from your experience, are there specific other content or some social issues? Is it something that kids gravitate more today? Something, we talked about seeing stories about themselves, but what is it? You're talking about real emotions and stuff. Is there anything, can it be oddly specific in content? Like, this is what is really popular now or important to do.
I think there are some global trends, obviously, like this, what was it called? This
Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about the South Korean Netflix, what was it called?
Glory.
Squid Games.
Yeah,
Squid Game, right.
That was like a global thing. Everybody had to watch it, even though they were way too young to watch it. And
exactly.
I think, but it was something there. Maybe it was just a trend. But I think there are some pretty good. Actually, Netflix has been good in like vacuuming the market of those stories. And if there's like a crime, kind of youth crime, gangs and stuff like that, I think it becomes pretty popular.
Okay.
Because we do have some big issues with that in Sweden,
right.
And you hear it on the news, or you maybe read about it, something happened again, a new shooting and stuff like that. And I think you kind of need something to, to actually, talk about it with friends, or if it's a made-up story, it's easier to actually navigate that issue than to actually talk about, there was a 15-year-old who got killed last night.
Right.
Like, it's so I think making fictions about it, I think, is really important.
Right.
And it's really popular as well. There are some pretty good ones that has been made. in the recent years, and I think they're almost all on Netflix. There was a feature film called Bullets that was made from a very young, from a very young boy's perspective, and he ends up being like one of the runner. It's called a bullet if you're like a runner for a gang leader or something.
Right.
And it's really it's all told from this 12-year-old's perspective. But it was a cinema film, so it didn't reach that big of an audience. If it would have been on, like, I don't know, we talked about in the think tank. It's been on TV as well. But I think, and that's circling back to what you're saying about how to reach that audience, to actually go and buy a ticket to the cinema and go and watch the film, or end up in a platform. I mean, where are the kids? They are on the phones, but where are they? Are they playing Roblox? Are they on TikTok? Instagram, I don't know, but
they are everywhere.
They're everywhere. So you have to kind of pin them down where they are. And then, I mean, you can probably chop up like a whole feature film and put it there. It was one person in the think tank who said, my friend watched the Green Mile, but in 1 minute episodes on TikTok. And I was like, that's insane, right? But you can do it. And that may, like, if you see like episode 46, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe, where can I find this this film? And then go to the platform where it exists and then watch it. So I think that has a very high potential. I know when I talked to to Petter, who was at the Swedish television, he said we cannot broadcast our whole episodes on TikTok because it's against what the government, I mean the TV, the contract saying, because it's a Chinese social media thing. But they can put like small teasers there and then actually
and pull them in.
They put clips and then
heavier stuff.
Look at the whole episode and then go.
I'm sorry that I'm making like the drug comment all the time. I'm not into that at all. Get the first one for free. No, but I think that's important to think about, and also in terms of what I was saying before, like if you're making a feature film or a short film, you have to kind of think of the audience and where are they? And I mean, you can start making a film and you think that, oh, they're on TikTok. But then when you're done, no, they're somewhere else. So you have to be kind of like, do like that whole full circle of like, where are my audience and what are they doing? And when are they open for this content? So that can be one thing. But I have a really good example that I heard yesterday because I was in a conference in Copenhagen. And there was, I don't know, is anybody from Norway here? No. Okay, so I need to see what it's called in English. It's called The Three Billy Goats. Have anybody heard about that?
Three Billy Goats.
We call them something else in Swedish. It's about 3 goats, and they are eaten by a troll.
That story.
That story. And so they made, there was this remake of the book, because it's an old book, and with those crazy characters and stuff. And they were like, oh, we want to make a feature film out of this. We want to make a party film. And we want to make a film that the kids want to go watch, and not the parents. So this is a film for a very young audience. And what they did was to create a song. There's a special thing called Norsk Dunk, which is really bad Norwegian disco music. I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody here, but it's like, and it's like really bad language and stuff, but it's fun. And like, so they made a funny music video and a song, and it was everywhere. It was on YouTube, it was on Spotify, it was everywhere. So all the kids were singing it in kindergartens. People working with the kids were also singing it. Everybody was singing it. And it was like the most popular song at the time, and then they released the film. It was the most seen film in Norway last year in cinema. And that's such a, I mean, maybe it's hard to just like take that recipe and put it into any film, but I think it's got something in terms of like, how do we connect to who we want to?
We got a great example of Ice Guys, for example, at Sæmundsson. Like all the trending singers, rap singers, have made a group.
Yeah, like a super group.
Shows, and they
boy band, yeah.
blew up the charts.
Yeah, it absolutely blew up,
You know,
yeah.
And that was a song, exactly, that became really popular.
Yeah. And then...
So they just pulled them in.
Yep.
I think it's very important to think, like you're saying, who are the audiences? It's like I do a lot of theater as well. And when you make independent theater, you always have to think about how am I going to make the money? How am I going to sell the tickets?
Right.
And then when you go into TV, I've sort of, you've distanced. I'm like, when I do TV, I don't think about the audiences. But when I'm in theater, I'm like
always thinking
I have to sell 60 tickets to this show so I can pay the actors. And but I think it's so important to think about how am I going to connect with them? How am I going to get them to watch? And who is going to watch it?
Right. Yeah, but that's actually because, Julia, you talked about how you're able to follow audiences and their interest in real time. How do we know, like here in Iceland, what kids like? I mean, I know that, you know, most of us are parents, but like I remember when I was making my children's TV show, I just made something, I just made something that I thought was funny and, you know, and just, of course, you know, try to be, you know, sensitive and, you know, mindful, but, you know, like this I think is funny, but then I thought about, but I have to be like educational too, I have to have a good moral, you know, but I don't know, what is it, what tools do we have, like how do you know?
Well, I only can speak for RIFF, and we are not allowed to measure viewings of
Still?
Why not?
Wow.
Still?
That is so incredible.
Sorry, it's an issue here in Iceland.
Why?
If you're 13 years and younger, I'm not allowed to, we can't measure it. So very often we're just shooting into the dark and just saying, maybe it will be.
Wow.
But when our player came, we can measure the player's views.
Okay.
So linear TV, I'm not allowed to measure,
Right.
but I can see how many people, how often a show is played.
Okay.
And in the top charts, you always have the children content because they watch it again and again and again and again and again.
Right.
So I have a very simple show called Sæmundsson for the youngest kids, and it has about 800,000 views.
Oh, wow.
Jesus.
Because it's so short, it's only 5 minutes, and they just go again.
Wow. And it's Icelandic, right?
It's Icelandic.
Yeah.
It's just me going, hello, children. It's literally that.
It's lovely, our favorite
and
as
it's for 0 to 3-year-olds.
Wow.
And very simple.
Right.
But we can see how many times that is viewed. And I can see Bluey is taking over Paw Patrol.
Is Bluey taking over?
Okay.
I know that. And then I know what are the most famous cartoons.
Wow, okay.
So I can see that.
Yeah.
So do you take that information like, okay, we have to make more of that or we have to focus on that or no?
Yeah, I mean, for example, now when we are going through financial crisis at RIFF and we are having to sort out what TV programs we're putting on, I'm not taking Bluey off.
Right.
It's staying there because that is the most popular show that we have on, even though I have to pay money for it. So that is like my priority, to keep that in.
Right.
Because if that disappears, they will just go onto Disney Plus and watch it in English, and then we lose.
Yeah.
As head of Krakarov, wouldn't you want to see more dramatized content?
Of course. And I mean, my background is drama and acting and directing, so I want to see so much more like stories and acted and with real people and real live action. What we have done is has just started. We are in a collaboration with SVT, NRK and Ile and DR, which is called B15, Barn 15. And that is a contract between these countries, and we have to make one series, and we have to contribute one series to that pot of 15 series, and I get 15 instead.
Like every year?
Every year. Yeah. So I put one in, we Randalín og Mundi, our Christmas calendar from 2 years ago, was our first contribution, and then White Lies, our teenage program, is our second contribution this year. And instead we get Nordic stuff. So we have, but many of them are moving more into cartoons and animation.
Oh, really?
Ah, okay.
So we get some SVT like drama series and stuff for kids. But we also DR only gives us. They have Monster Loving Maniacs, which is a huge new series that they are creating. And actually, one of our programs, the next, we are going in with Ormhildur the Brave, which is a big Icelandic cartoon. 26 episodes, I think, or 52 episodes of 26 minutes. So we are also trying to, because I only have one a year that I have to give in. So I try to do drama, cartoon, try to have a little bit of everything. Something from that RIFF has made, something that we pay. But it's a very good collaboration of getting Icelandic content out to the Nordic countries, and also getting Nordic content to us.
Right. And do you get funding as well, or is it mostly content?
It's just it's just content swap.
Yeah, no.
So I pay X amount of money, and I get these 15.
Right.
Everyone contributes basically into this pot of money. It's basically just swapping.
Okay.
Yeah.
And actually, funny coincidence that you should talk about that, because next question, even though we're keeping this as organic as we can, I mean, okay, so it talks about opportunities for collaboration between, again, government-funded projects and independent creators. Again, it's all about, bridging this gap, whatever that is. What would you like to see when it comes to collaboration between, the Nordic, Scandinavia? Like, what would you, because you're providing content, you're getting content. Again, money. Would you like more money? Like, is that a possibility? Is that, what would you like to see?
We were talking about how compared to Iceland, our environment is so small and compact. And as a producer, when you're pitching something to head of content, in Iceland, you just see a stone-faced, tired, head of content in his 18th meeting, of the day, and you kind of don't get a connection, There are it's so undermanned. There's so few people.
Oh, okay, yeah,
big responsibilities.
Right.
You're waiting for a reply from one person in order to get like a green light. So we were talking about it earlier, like on NRK and DR and SVT, they have like a head of scripts department, head of scripts for children department. She's only head of Krakkarúf, and there's nothing kind of.
And then there's no.
You need to do every part of it.
Yeah.
So I would, it's not realistic now in terms of, in these times of recession, economic hardship, really. But it would be preferable that we can be compatible to NRK, DR, SVT, and RIFF, for example, in these departments.
Julia, from your experience, are you collaborating with the other Scandinavian countries? And if so, in what way? I mean, are there any, maybe funding going around, or what's your experience and what could be done?
From a screening point of view, we started this collaboration called NOISE, Nordic Young Something Sessions. And the main thing was to make Nordic content travel a little bit more. So we basically share a program. It's called the NOISE program, and it's a short film from all the different Nordic countries. But sometimes it's hard to find short films from all countries that are aimed towards a specific age group.
Right.
I mean, Swedish, we have a pretty good, and it's like back to financing again. Like we have a good system, we have talent programs and stuff, and because in Denmark they shut the Danish Film Institute shut their short film funding down completely. I mean, there are other funds that you can use, so there are some short films, but I mean, Iceland is a really low production-wise, and also Finland, and every other film institute or film foundation is like cutting. The Finns are in really big trouble.
Okay.
Wow. So it's and so we wanted to make this program for the films to travel, but what we also wanted to do was to nudge the industry, like to say like, we want your content, please create some films that we can watch. And then we actually, this is also like one of the things that is good, but it's like films forced upon a young audience. There is a platform called Norden i skolan. It's like the Nordic countries in schools. I don't know if you have it in Iceland, but it sounds like it because it's Nordic. And it's a platform, and all teachers can log in and create an account, and then you can screen films in your classroom. And those films are also on that platform. And now we're also working with trying to get feature films travel around festivals, but also like maybe they will get bought or like from a distributor, or I mean, it's always good when films travel.
Right.
So that's a little bit how we are trying to work within that network. And we are 5 film festivals, and RIFF is one of them, and BUFF is one of them. So.
Right. Okay. So we're talking a little bit about what kids want to see. Like, I mean, how can we ensure that government-funded films and TV shows remain culturally relevant and reflective of the diverse experience of today's youth? Do we need, because here we are all adults, do we need more children to be involved? Are there a lot of children involved? I know that Krakkarov has often involved children, like sometimes making the content from beginning to end. Like, what is your take on that? And that just up for grabs.
I think with the funding, and because I was looking into the Icelandic Film Fund,
right?
There is a fund for children stuff that you can apply for, a special children's film fund within there.
Like script fund?
Yes, and production fund as well, I think.
No, not
just a script fund.
It is a script fund, which is so good.
Yeah, but I was reading it, and I was wondering.
I'm not aware of it at least.
Yeah, but I was reading about what are the criteria for you to apply for that, and you have to have. I can't remember how much it was, and I think you have to have
one film produced.
One film produced by you.
Which costs.
Wow. And I'm like, wow, well, that's no one new.
No, really?
No one with a new idea.
No one with a new idea can enter.
Can enter.
Yeah.
All you have
that is the script funding.
Yeah, it's So it's there's a.
Say again?
You can apply for the big Kawami one. Yeah. But not the specific children one.
That has a bit higher funding each script.
That is so interesting.
But
obviously to encourage the creativity, you know.
But I also think I was like, that's a bit unfair. But then I also thought, but it's also good. It's encouraging people that have already made films.
Right.
To apply.
Right.
So it's like
I've been completely
Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it is. It is great, but not very encouraging.
Sorry, that was so
No.
Perfect.
Yeah.
One
because there's not a lot of people that, and I think it's also you can. It's a film that you have produced or a TV series.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean, okay. So here comes, I want to say a two-parter. Long-term engagement, like what strategies can be implemented to not only attract young audiences, but also retain their interest over time as they grow older, aka adapt and evolve? And then future trends, like looking ahead, what emerging trends do you foresee in youth media consumption, and how should content creators prepare to adapt to these changes? Go.
Yeah, I'm really inspired by the story you told about this about the film the 18-year-olds were making, because I think maybe we just need to be more inventive and creative regarding, you know, the making of process here. Maybe we are kind of dinosaurs in the filmmaking part, because it's so expensive and it costs a lot of money, and now we are entering like a major recession, and we've been in it for a long time actually, but and we see no produced films nor TV shows. Maybe we just need to be more inventive because we know we reach the audience when we make content for them. That is something we know. Maybe I think we filmmakers need to be just more inventive. And less of a technical demand with anamorphic lenses and all kinds of...
4K and all that.
You know.
Yeah, sure. You know, with all due respect for quality, of course.
For quality,
of
course. In order to make something for this audience. I think we need to be just think out of the box.
And it's a collaboration as well. I think it's so important when you're making stuff for children and youths to use children and youth in your shows.
Definitely.
Primarily. Have them have them there, because they are the reason they are watching. And they have such big opinions on what it should be about. And it shouldn't be, like you were saying, when you're an older director and you're just reminiscing about something great when you were younger, and they don't want to watch that. They don't. Get them in on how to get them to read the scripts. And I think SVT, Sweden and Norway are very good at that. To get really a panel of young people to come in and read the script and it's just more time spent on the creating and making and writing, and then the filming doesn't take us long. It's the base.
Yeah, I mean, like Julia, you were saying about, you know, this particular film that, you know, that wasn't high in quality, you know, aesthetically, but the story was very thrilling and gripping, which, you know, I mean, at least says something about, you know, the importance of stories. I know that at the National Broadcasting Service here in Iceland, we have this annual annual SNL, if you will. So we have like this once a year. It's huge for adults, but now the kids are making their own version, and sometimes the kids' version has become more popular than the one that they spend much more money on for the adult. Which again, and sometimes they are making it at their home with their phones and stuff, or coming in and you know, doing it on site at your studios in Roof. Is this correct? Is it like
And I always get the feedback from my bosses being like, yes, you can make this show, but you're not making the annual show. You're not making the big one. I was like, no, we're not. We're just making a better one. It's a shorter and a better one, because the kids they write sketches and they send in sketches.
Right.
Then we film them with them.
Exactly.
So we have a script collaborator who's working with the kids, and then we have professionals filming. And it's very popular. And that's how you make the real content. It's good, it's quality, but it's also childish and fun.
Right.
Experimental.
I mean, I know that there was a lot of talk about, and actually a problem in the Icelandic theater, that, you know, we're not seeing Icelandic script because it's, you know, you have to make, I don't know how many months just to write, and, you know, you need to pay bills at the same time. So that's in the city theater. What program was it? We were talking about it, Helga. They made this specific program for young authors.
For young authors, playwrights, that, you know, they hired them for 2 years. They get an office at the theater.
So many of like X amount of
luxury thing.
Apply, and then they say, okay, here's an idea we would like to develop with you.
And they maybe write, you know, 1 or 4 plays for the theater, and they get an audience. It's like the theater culture is so advanced.
Right.
And these are so primitive conditions here for screenwriters. Right. So, of course, we're new in the industry, but we haven't made the ground rules like they have obviously in the city theater.
But why the lack of interest, do you think, in children's content? And I'm just talking, I mean, I know there's more funding.
Why aren't there more people here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although we're very happy to have all of you.
IFC? Where's the head of IFC?
Where's
the cultural minister?
Right, yeah.
I mean,
Great
it
question.
answers our question.
Great question,
It's like you said, what's the interest? It's just like children's theatre. Children's theatre's always been like, oh yeah, here is the theatre, and then we do kids play.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh yeah, but these are the people that are going to be watching films and theatre when they grow up. Yeah. So you have to nurture that base.
You
have to make content.
Right.
Because if they don't see a good film when they're young, they're not going to go to the cinema when they're older, because they're just going to be on their laptop. Also, it's the base, it's the core, it's the essence of the future, basically.
Yeah. Is there? Do you think there's more respect, like in Sweden, for children's content? Like, do they?
Please say yes.
Yeah. It used to be like huge. I think we made some really good successes, like in terms of strong IPs, I said before. But I think it's the same. I mean, you hear people saying like, we prioritize this audience. The young are the most important, yada yada. But you never see it in terms of budget. I mean, never.
Yeah.
So it's always like the lowest, like the ones who work with the children and youth. But I think the main thing is like to be really interested in your audience, to listen to them. I mean, that's crucial, and to I mean, I'm not sure that they get to decide what stories are gonna be told, because there are good storytellers. But I think using them in some way, maybe. Looking through, maybe have a young person reading the script, like coming with comments. I wouldn't talk like this, or I wouldn't. This is I don't understand why is this scene in like I don't know. I mean that's
that's
just
really important.
Throwing it out there, and or just try to explain to a 11-year-old what you want to do, and like if you're
because it's
if
a
they
totally
don't
different culture.
Exactly. If you don't understand, it's like what? Exactly. This is not.
Yeah, my 11-year-old met a classmate this summer, and I was like, wasn't this your classmate? Yeah? You didn't ask him, how the summer was? Mother, I'm Gen Alpha, We don't do things like this. We don't do that.
They just,
right.
They're completely different.
Yeah, right. Oh, so, okay. What are you interested in?
So they exactly know what...
I think it's also with the interest in children's and youth films and cultural stuff, is that it's the parents the first that put it in front of the children when they're younger. And it's sort of because every parent goes, when you have a kid, like mine is 4 now, so I'm very much into stuff for 4-year-olds. And I have no idea what an 11-year-old wants to do. Right. And then it's like when you're trying to get your kid into kindergarten and they're not there, and you're like fighting, and you're like, and then as soon as you get in,
you just completely drop the subject.
You just forget about it. So I think it does come in turns. Like when you're in there, because I have so many people go like, what do you work in RIFF? With children? Oh, I don't have any children. I don't. Mine are all grown up. I don't watch it anymore. I was like, but it's still very good content. There's still loads of stuff there. So I think it's one of those things that comes in waves, because in your life, and then you become a grandparent, and then you all of a sudden start to watch again. Right. And I think people stop fighting for it when they are not in it. But then some people like us, who are very passionate about it, we keep on paddling.
But I think also like trying to understand and be interested in what they are actually watching, because I think nowadays people are watching stuff on their own, maybe sometimes on 2 screens at the same time. I heard today before that it was something called like a 2-screen film. That's when it's not engaging enough for 1 screen. I heard a teenager told me like, oh, that was a 1-screen film. And I was like, what did you say?
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting that you don't even want to grab your phone and
Right.
Yeah.
Start scroll. Yeah.
Definitely.
and that's like so interesting. It's like that's in the reality that we are, and we are trying to. I mean, there are so much content, and content is like competing against sleep, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what Netflix has been saying. But I think to be interested in what's so interesting on your phone, and not just be like, oh, you know,
Right,
turn it
right.
off, or we're eating now, don't watch.
What are you watching?
Like, what are you actually
What are you watching? Yeah, yeah.
And it's so, and I think, I mean, people have been talking about how TikTok actually made teenagers read again, like the book talk, which is amazing because reading is fundamental. Like, no, but it's like, but we would say that watching a film or reading a film is also crucial, right?
Right.
And that's a lot of the content that we are talking about, the good content, if you want to say so, is also on TikTok. So, but we don't know if it's good or bad, or like to be really like eager to learn what they are watching and why.
Right.
Because I don't understand this, or I can do it myself sometimes, but it's mostly ceramics and stuff, but different content from my children.
And I also think it's important as well to have it as, like we put it into law to have women 40%, at least 40% in every, boards, company boards in Iceland. Because no women were on the board. We just needed legislation.
Right.
Maybe we need some kind of push from the legislative body to just make, there has to be this content for this audience, like for RUE or, or every television channel, that forces them just to buy content, produced content for children. Because this is just the Wild West. It's a mayhem. There's nothing. It's just where's the policy? Does he mention the policy? Yeah. And content for children is very important.
Right.
I think there are numbers, like you asked me in the beginning. I think there are now I'm just guessing, so you can double check. But I think 25% of the budget from the Swedish Film Institute that goes into production should be children and youth film, and it's up to
25% of all the budget SVT gets.
No, not SVT, but the Swedish Film Institute. But I think maybe also SVT around that almost, and it's pretty good. I mean. And for the Swedish Film Institute, I think they say that children and youth are like 0 or 2, maybe you cannot say 0 anymore, 2 to 18 or something. I know that the Danish Film Institute, you are a child or a young person until you're 30, so. But that was a big mistake, because then money was used to make films for like young adults instead of children. Yeah. So that went not very well. Yeah. So, but I think it's important to have to be clear about. Yeah. I know that the Swedish Film Institute has gotten some real big criticism about this gender thing that they were doing in, it was like 50-50 by 2020, if you remember. I don't know if you went to any of those seminars, but it was that there should be as many female directors as male directors by 2020. But I think it's gotten loosened up a little bit, but it was, We have rules about gender in the IFC. Okay. But it made some changes in the ways of talent to come forward, which is good. Yeah. So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Now, since we are, it's been so lively and so, actually so interesting, we're going to wrap up soon, but maybe one last question before we do. You're ready for Q&A, Mike, is that right? That's a Q&A, Mike, okay. So just the kind of last, and I know it's a heavy question, but what do you believe and this is a question for all of you. What do you believe are the long-term consequences of the lack of funding and the interest in making quality children's TV and film? Well, like, what do you believe will happen, like, if this continues to happen, especially, obviously, here in Iceland? But overall, like, what do you believe?
The language goes down.
The language goes down, okay.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
And yeah, the culture goes down. I mean, the children's culture declines completely.
Right.
I mean, that's very simple, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I also think that we need some like bonfire kind of content, like the Eurovision. We've already established that as a big bonfire kind of production.
Yeah, something that unifies, and bring the family together.
Something to talk about in schools or whatever. Like something that you can share and talk about. Like, oh, what do you think about that character?
Right.
Something to, and maybe also to discuss, like, to have deeper discussions about issues.
Right.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Now, does anyone have something to add? Okay, see, there's two questions right there. So, Elvar, could you please bring the mic over here? We'll start with you.
Hi, thank you for a wonderful panel. I wanted to extend on you said about the two-screen issue. It's an issue in a way, and you had talked about creating fast content for kids, and it's very much the trend in a lot of content that we don't have time to do anything slow anymore because people don't have the attention span anymore. Do you find that to be a trend? Because you watch 200-something films. Do you find that it's a trend in children movies to become as fast as we've seen more adult content become?
No, actually not at all. Or at least it's not the films that we maybe screen that much of. I mean, I would say that it's like an art cinema kind of festival, but for children and young people. So there's a lot of slow films. And that's why cinema is so important, because you can, but you do it less, I think, if you're in a cinema room. And then you're also, I'm sorry about the forced kids to watch and stuff, but you're trapped in there pretty much. And so I think that experience also helps a lot, that you are in a room and you're sharing the experience, and I think it puts a lot of value into actually watching something different and opening up to, like, oh, there's so much different things out there that you can watch, and languages again, like, so we screen a lot of like South American films, and they're usually really slow, especially the youth film.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, hi, my name is Sunna, I'm a producer, and thank you for organizing this panel, because it's like very much needed. And it's a bit sad to see nobody here from the Icelandic Film Center, or, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, are you still?
Welcome.
I thought you weren't there anymore. But yeah, so I'm very interested in producing children content, and I have actually now 2 applications with the Film Fund that I already got 2 no's. Okay. And it's very interesting because you're talking about the fast. You know, we got like a feedback for one of the applications that is based on a book, award-winning book. And the advisor said it wasn't fast you know, it needed to be more action-packed, which is sad. I think, like, if we need to make like Trapped for children, you know, just. But I just wanted to ask, like, in terms of financing the children content, like the Nordic TV. The Film and TV Fund, I mean, is it, and, you know, other European funding bodies, are they like supporting children content? And, you know, because obviously it is hard to finance children content, and I don't know, for Birta, I don't know if you had co-producers or...
No, we had no co-producers. We only made, and we were rejected on a treatment stage from a really big distributor in Germany. So when we made the film, they just watched it and bought it. You know, so we were very lucky. But obviously, this is not the case with many of the children's film. I think Europe Media Development Mini Slate Fund is, you know, I mean, content for children and teenagers should be in the forefront, but I don't think they actually are.
Right.
Unfortunately, I don't think they are. There is no huge fund that only focuses on children's content. Not that I know of. In Europe, I'm not sure.
I think maybe, I don't know, I haven't produced children content, you know, so I don't know like about the initiatives in the Nordics, but you know, there should be some kind of initiative for co-production, you know, especially for, but I just wanted to address something for RIFF. I mean, it would be so interesting if we could work together on a more earlier stage
Exactly.
to help us get the
Scripted
projects.
development.
Yeah. So for example, that now I have 2 projects there, both very interesting, but I feel that the advisor doesn't have any kind of knowledge of children content. So, you know, and if we would get like some kind of, you know, a letter of interest or something from RIFF, you know, to saying, okay, like we really like this and we believe that this would actually be popular or, you know, or is important, socially relevant. And so
we do get a lot of pitches. Well, I do get a lot of pitches like that, and if I'm genuine, if I think the content is good and I think the story is good, we are very willing to hand out a letter of interest. And but of course, I get loads of them. But it's just me because I've been on that end. I've been the person being like, hey, do you want to see my play? And I just want to meet as many people as I can and read all the pitches, but sometimes you have to say no. We were also saying that it's very important to say no, to say it doesn't fit now, instead of dragging people along.
Right.
It's very important because I've been that person, being like, hey, do you like me, please? And no one has said anything. So you just want to get, and it's important. But I try to meet everyone that sends me a pitch, and of course it's very difficult to be in a full-time job and then read the whole series and the whole like pitch deck and everything. It's a lot of reading.
And if it's a lot of work of reading pitches, you know, from all kinds, then who are reading the script?
Yes.
None of them are.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's reading scripts anymore.
But I'm very open, and but the department that I run is Kids RIFF, and we have very limited budgets within RIFF itself. So when we make the big Christmas calendars and the big TV series, the budget actually comes from the
IFC.
Yeah, and then big RIFF, I say.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Production
the production RIFF. So I have no say in making large TV series, but I have the say in making the small ones. But I am listened to within the company,
Right.
because I have the background of making theater and kids programs, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So but we are very willing to be in collaboration. So do send, and we try to,
I mean, I know with the bigger projects, it's you going from you know, the program department, so Skarpi and
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but I would like that there would be more like a
I think Nordic co-productions are quite successful usually, and I think if you have one, then the other one is usually more eager to jump on the project.
You have to have
as
the
well.
anchor always.
Yes.
The anchor is RIFF. And if you don't have the anchor, you're out of the game.
Yeah.
And I just feel like now that with these 2 projects, one based on an award-winning book, you know, with a very experienced screenwriter that has already had a TV series on RIFF, you know, and sold around Europe, that doesn't even get through script application 1. And I'm like, you know, what?
I mean,
That's so weird.
And the fund is empty.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that
know,
is,
I know,
of
but
course.
Right.
And in the film, I think it was in the film policy or in some kind of report from the ministry saying that they, want to produce one film a year for children.
That's why.
But it's nothing happening.
No, and it should be mandatory. One film a year.
Yeah.
One film a year.
At least give us a script grant to make a great script.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Great.
Totally.
Thank you. Very important. Yes, we have one over there.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you for a great panel. It's not really a question. I just want to tell you a little story on the subjects we've been talking about. Because I had a shocker the other day. I was teaching a little course at the film school to 20-year-olds, 18, 20-year-olds. And they refused to do their films in Icelandic. They just wanted to do their projects in English.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And I was like, what? How are you gonna, this is not gonna be funny in English. You have to do it in Icelandic. And why, And they're like, because I grew up in English. And I started talking about this to them, and they said, nothing was dubbed when we were kids. I watched all the children's stuff in English. I know that Smurfs and all that stuff was happening when you were a kid, but when I was a kid, it was all in English. So, and Icelandic is lame, it's lame. And this one guy said, Icelandic is so lame, but then it's so gay to speak in English all the time. So they are kind of without a language right now. They don't speak Icelandic properly, but then they're not great in English either. They think they are, but they're not good enough to make deep stuff,
Right.
And then, so there was not really a question. It was just the
Very
future.
interesting.
And it's also, I mean, in content for like crime series and all kinds of content that is being made now. I mean, streamers are saying no to Icelandic, like Viaplay, Netflix. All of those big streamers are saying just no to Icelandic.
Why?
We like the stories. We like the local stories. I know this because I have a crime series now, trying to find a global streamer, and they are just, we're done. Nobody's watching Icelandic language. But we want the local stories, and we want the tax refund, please,
But it's also because we are so small.
So few,
And I actually really wanted to buy the rights to show Pokemon in Iceland, in RIFF, because Pokemon is getting big again. And I have the dub for the first season of Pokemon. I have it in RIFF. It's in the archive. I have the whole series. And I wrote to Pokemon. I found out the contact. I was like, "Hey, can I buy the rights to the first season of Pokemon that had already been dubbed? And it's here. I can just take it off this VHS and then put it into our programming." And they were like, "No, we can't." The question was, how big is the country and territory? I was like, it's a 300,000 people country. And they were like, "No, it's too much of a faff to make all the contracts."
Wow.
For that much of a... So if you pair with the other Nordic countries, we might think about it. And I was like, what? So it's so small.
We are suffering.
In the big world.
We need another panel just for the language thing, Because again, we... I mean, I used to live in Minnesota for several years, and I was really, and of course I come as a proud Icelander. We have the sagas, we have everything, and I say, yes, Icelandic language is really hard to learn, And my friend said, yeah, and pointless.
Yeah.
He was being sarcastic, trying to be funny, but like there are 300,000 of you, and we were like, yeah, well, kind of got a point, but I don't know if I agree with you, So yeah, I mean that's another thing. Like, yeah, why wouldn't they? And that's interesting. Why the streaming platforms wouldn't like Icelandic, because you can.
Yeah.
You can.
And I mean, we
subtitles.
have a recent example. We have Dimma by Ragnar Jónasson, Lena Olin, Swedish, talking English.
That's right.
Dimma.
Yeah, and playing Icelandic.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
They're talking about Hátegsvegur, like with Icelandic names.
Yeah. It's this Icelandic street. Yeah. Right.
I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
Then also, in my experience, and I know to a lot of people around me, that RIFF tends to be a big bottleneck also for production. You can, Skarpi, I'm just going to say it, is unreachable.
Yeah, unreachable.
Oh, so he's, for those who don't know, he's the head of the ice, how do you say it? The head of?
Head of content. Yeah.
Just head of content.
Head of content.
Period, yeah.
And I have personally had 2 projects, and I do a lot of animation and things, and I don't normally do it for kids, but I've had 2 passion projects for like Icelandic language animation for kids that I've pitched to RIFF.
Right.
Gotten agreed on. Yes, we would love to do it. Let's go for it. Okay, great. Let's talk about it in August. Okay. Then I try to contact someone. Nobody's there.
Right.
Hey, now it's September. Should we talk about it? Yeah. Oh, talk to this one. Yeah, I don't have the funding. You have to talk to that one. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be available for a meeting next summer. Do you want to talk to me then? It's like, and then you're doing other stuff.
This is what we're talking about, the
undermanned,
they're really obviously understaffed and underfunded. Yeah.
And it's not very accessible.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
You know.
Right.
And it's, I mean,
Thank you.
I can't speak for him, but it's, I experience it myself within my job, is that it definitely doesn't come from a bad place. It is just an extremely overworked place.
Right.
It is.
And it's kind of sad that the government is talking about how they are delivering and the finances is like going really badly and they have to make cuts. And you're like, what? All these people are just swimming and trying to...
Drowning.
Drowning.
In
Trying to
projects.
get head above water.
Yeah. But I have heard this as well, and I think it's very sad to hear, and it is true, I think,
Unfortunately, we don't have more time. I'm so happy because I wasn't even sure we were going to make the whole, we had until now. We're so happy for everyone who came. Especially, I want to thank Agnes, Helga, Julia, thanks for making the time. You've been wonderful. Thanks for letting me moderate. Have a great and, hopefully great and fulfilling time here at RIFF. A lot of interesting panels and movies and just, take part and make yourself noticed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.